Trump said today about RFK, I think he's less radical than people think. But RFK Jr. has spent decades, more than 30 years attacking vaccines and alleging a link between autism and vaccines, something the scientific and medical community says is false. Is this going to be a problem?
Well, I think most people in the world are probably less radical than the press makes them out to be. The press actually enjoys making people look extreme because it helps sell advertising and so forth. So it doesn't surprise me that Trump says that about Bobby Kennedy. Is he going to struggle? Yeah, he's going to struggle for a variety of reasons. Some of them have to do with his past statements. Some of them have to do with the fact he's changed parties. Keep in mind, he wanted to run as a Democrat for president, couldn't, ran as an independent, then dropped out to endorse the Republican. That probably didn't make a lot of the Democrats happy and probably didn't endear him to as many Republicans as you might think. So he's going to have the politics to deal with. Keep in mind, this stopped long ago. This advise and consent process stopped long ago, having to do with qualifications, and a lot of it has to do with politics. And that's why Bobby Kennedy probably has to rely just on Republicans to get him across the finish line. I can't imagine a single Democrat voting for him.
Listen, Jared Polis of Colorado, governor of Colorado, says he's a great pick, so you never know. Jamie, RFK Jr. has no medical or scientific training. He's a lawyer. He's not a doctor. When 75 Nobel Prize winners wrote a letter urging the Senate not to confirm RFK, the Trump team released a statement saying, quote, Americans are sick and tired of elites telling them what to do and how to do it. Yeah. I would venture most Americans go see a doctor, however, when they're sick, not a lawyer.
Well, of course, I would say Nobel laureates are the good kinds of elites who have actually learned something and achieved something meaningful. But just because 77 or 144 or any number of Nobel laureates say we should do something doesn't mean we should necessarily do it in one way or another. The Department of Health and Human Services is a huge agency, $3 trillion budget, 80,000 staff, 13 sub-agencies. This is a huge managerial job, and it's a huge responsibility. The question for the American people is not, does he have to be a doctor, or does he have to be a scientist? You could easily imagine a lawyer or a public health person doing a fantastic job here. The question is, do his views align with the interests of the American people? Certainly on the Make America Healthier. I don't know about the again, but America
could be against that?
America is a very unhealthy place. Three-quarters of us are eating crap in our food. We spend more on healthcare than lots of other countries, and we don't get a return on that investment. So there's all kinds of things to fix. I would love to see RFK Jr. as the head of a presidential commission on making America healthier. They could focus on diet, on exercise, on additives to food. But in this role, the reason why I don't think RFK Jr., so at least so far, is a good pick for this role is he has to oversee this vast bureaucracy that is responsible for basic science, for promoting vaccines, which are extremely well studied and safe. Issues like raw milk, which may sound like a crunchy granola issue, but there's a real possibility humans could be infected with the H5N1 virus through the medium of raw milk. You listed all of those concerns. So I'm less worried about whether he's a doctor or a scientist. The reason why I don't think it's a great pick is I'm not sure this is the right role for him. Yeah. Even though RFK Jr. could have a really important role focusing on the issues where I think he's 100% right about horrible food additives.
But Mick, to that point, I mean, Jamie's right. Who's against Make America Healthy Again? And I don't know anybody who thinks it's a great idea that we have all this junk in our food supply that, by the way, none of the other Western industrialized country in Europe, for example, have in their food supplies. And yet, you know that if he starts to try and say something to the farmers in Nebraska, or the food plants in other states, you got to change the way you do your stuff, or you're not going to get any more federal subsidies. He's going to run into congressmen who are going to say, no way, my constituents need it to stay the same way it's been.
Sure, and if I wanted to defend the pick, and I kind of like the pick, I do. I think it's a disruptive pick. I don't think there's anything wrong with changing the way the government works a little bit. of looking at it a different way, bringing transparency in, of starting from scratch as opposed to starting from what we've already done. So if you look at Bobby Kennedy Jr. as a disruptor, I think he's a fantastic pick.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.